This legislative session this year in Texas was one of the most challenging legislative sessions we have ever seen.
Books banned in certain districts, targeted for removal.
LGBTQ community members took their concerns to lawmakers. At least 2 people were placed in handcuffs and escorted out of the chamber.
Voter suppression, climate change, school shootings, access to reproductive health care.
Lawmakers are considering a bill that would dramatically expand the state's power and purview over border enforcement with the creation of a new border protection unit.
There is a small but very powerful group who are currently in control of this state. And in a lot of ways, Texas feels like the battleground because we see these really harsh voter suppression bills. We see restrictions on reproductive rights. The rights of LGBTQ community and trans people in particular in Texas are being used to stoke fear. As we walk through the building with the All In for Equality coalition partners, the rhetoric being used against the community was very divisive. It was calling trans people dangerous, and we did watch an incident of violence happen against one of our members. It was incredibly difficult to see that happen while we were in the building, and then to continue to think about how to keep people safe. It became a situation where TFN and our coalition partners had to think really critically about how we ask supporters to engage. I was definitely reaffirmed by our staff and by all of the community members that we would absolutely be marching right back into that building.
Outside the chamber, and shows the emotion continued running high.
This year, despite the increased hostility that we saw at the Capitol, we saw droves of people turning out, trying to find out what they could do to stop these terrible bills from becoming law. And it was incredibly heartening. We saw them coming to rallies, testifying, and beyond the legislative session, we saw people showing up at school boards, wanting to get engaged for the first time on what is happening in their local school districts. So while the challenge is still incredibly difficult, the desire for change is incredibly powerful.
We are not going to sit at home and do nothing.
Other things we did at Texas Freedom Network this year that we're definitely proud of is that we published research on climate change in Texas and how that is being represented in our public school education standards. And we have a program called Reproductive Freedom Congregations. Thousands of Texans are engaging in conversations about abortion and reproductive rights in their houses of worship. Organizing at Texas Freedom Network is the backbone of the organization. The core tenet of what we do is helping people find their voice and bring it to the table to be heard. We are building a powerful movement for change in this state, and the closer and closer we get to that reality, the harder and harder we see them throw everything they have at us. In 2024, TFN will run some of the largest voter registration programs we have ever had the opportunity to run to date. We will turn out more young voters than we have ever turned out in this state, and we will continue holding people accountable and supporting the champions that we do have. We're building a leadership pipeline of young, progressive, people of color, and progressive champions who lead and hold this agenda for us in Texas. Winning is about the changes in people's lives in Texas, because once Texas changes, the map of the United States changes as well. And we will never stop fighting to make sure that our communities are protected and that the Texas that is inclusive is a Texas that we are all a part of.